holidays and start your holidays too. So I appreciate you being here today and spending some time. I look forward to the open forum because that's an opportunity for us to have a conversation. This is an important time at your institution. You're looking for a new president. And it's important, anytime you have someone in here, you're looking for someone who's a good fit for you. But candidates are looking for a place where it's a good fit for them as well. So I really appreciate you being here. I told a group this morning that when I first got here, I got here a little early just to make sure I knew where I was going and could find my way. And Taylor offered me a conference room to sit in, and I'm like, no, I'm good. I'm going to sit right out here in the hall, if you don't mind. And probably in the 10 minutes or 15 minutes that I was in the hallway, I probably had 20 people come by and shake my hand, say hello, say good morning. And that welcome was very much appreciated. I think it speaks a lot about the culture here at your college, how very welcoming you are, and I certainly appreciate that very much. Just to tell you a little bit about me, because I know you guys have Googled me, and I know you've looked at me on LinkedIn too, because you know you get the emails saying, look who's searching for you. So I saw those emails, but just to tell you a little bit about me, I have worked in the community college for almost 22 years now, and I believe in the mission of the community college. You know, community college should be the first choice for students, not the second choice, because we all know the impact that community colleges make in people's lives. And I'm one of those people. I kind of did this backwards. I went and got my 4-year degree from East Carolina, got married, had kids, got divorced, moved to Alabama somewhere in that time, came back home, and I was a single mom with 2 kids who was working in a job that didn't pay my bills. So I made the choice to go back to school. And I went to Catawba Valley Community College, enrolled in the respiratory therapy program there, and graduating from that program and going to work in healthcare there really changed the trajectory of my career. Now, my parents, I didn't do that. My parents spent thousands of dollars for me to go to East Carolina. I don't regret a minute of that time I spent at East Carolina. But if I look at the value of my community college education versus my 4-year education, I'd take this 2-year degree any day because it has opened just hundreds of doors for me professionally and personally as well. So that's why I say, you know, we're the first choice, and we need to have people see us as the first choice. In my current role, I've been the Vice President of K-64 and Talent Development, and I know that's a really long, convoluted title that really doesn't tell you anything about what I do. So just to tell you a little bit about my work in the community college, after I graduated, I worked in healthcare for several years, was an assistant director of a respiratory therapy department in Statesville, went to be a department director at Fry Regional Medical Center in Hickory. And while I was a respiratory therapist working, we had students rotating through our department. And I would help precept students when they were with us. And during that time, fell in love with teaching and loved being at the bedside. So when I had the opportunity to be able to go to Catawba Valley Community College and teach as an adjunct instructor, I jumped on it with all fours and did that. That eventually led to a full-time position in the respiratory therapy department. I've also been a dean, School of Health and Public Services, so I've worked very heavily with our healthcare and our public safety folks. And in my current role now, that long convoluted title, I do a lot of workforce and economic development and corporate development training, customized training. I work with our Small Business Center. So really working a lot with business and industry, and have had just a tremendous amount of fun doing that job. If you would have told me I was going from healthcare and then working with business and industry, I would have said, nah, no way, I love healthcare. But regardless of whatever avenue you're going into, whatever career, it's all a business, right? And they all have the same needs most of the time. So it ended up being a much more natural transition than what I expected. And during that time, I've really had a wonderful opportunity to learn much more about the business and industry in my area, and really that has helped me in really working with our areas in corporate development and in the college in general, in really thinking about our programming and where we could potentially grow our college in the future based on trends in our area and also what's coming to our area in business and industry. So with that being said, I just love what I do, guys. It's been a lot of fun. I tell people every day we do the Lord's work. We're out there just helping people every day, you know, and I really think that's why we all should be here. If you're not here to help people find a better station in life, then you're in the wrong place. So with that being said, I hope you love your job as much as I do. I really do. I'm trying to think if there's anything else fun and exciting about myself I can tell you. I think one of the biggest things that I've done recently is I'm a pretty avid hiker. I just did the Mammoth March, which if you're familiar with that, it's a 20-mile hike that you do in one day. And it about near killed me, but I finished it. So I was very proud of that. 20 miles, yes ma'am. I don't know why I paid good money to do that, but I did. So that's a little bit about me and the work that I've done. You know, if you were to afford me the opportunity to come here to James Sprunt, I could promise you that I'd bring the same passion, the same love for what I do here. I am a small town girl at heart. Somebody asked me earlier about, you know, we're rural here, right? And I told them, yes, I knew that. Where I currently live now, I have Tyson Chicken Farms as my neighbors behind me. I have two older gentlemen who live right up the road from me who are cattle farmers. They have about 100 acres in the area, so it's not uncommon for me to drive home at night, and there's about 50 to 100 steer in the road as they're moving them from one pasture to the next. So I'm good with rural. Good with small, good with rural. That's kind of where my heart lies anyway. So that's a little about me. So here's your time, guys. So I know you have questions. So I'd be happy to take any of those questions now. Yes, sir.
So you enjoy working with business and industry. Tell me your experience with apprenticeships.
So, all right, here's the second test. I'm going to pass this one. So the question is, what is my experience with apprenticeships? I actually have quite a bit of experience with apprenticeship. Our apprenticeship coordinator at the college he and I work very closely together. We are at a point now to where we have more than doubled our apprenticeships, which is a really good thing. When I first stepped into this position, we were a part of, it was called Apprenticeship Catawba. There were 7 businesses in that network, and we probably had about 15 or 20 apprentices, and they were all in engineering mechatronics. We didn't have any other apprenticeships at the college. With the work of our previous apprenticeship director and our current director, we've changed up our apprenticeship model, and we hold the standards as a college for apprenticeship. We've now grown our partners to 48 partners. We don't have our number for pre-apprentices yet because we'll be recruiting them in the spring. But last count, I think we had 60 pre-apprentices, so those are high school kids on a pathway. And in our college population, we had about 47 apprentices. We're currently working on a healthcare apprenticeship pathway. We're starting with nursing because they're our biggest program. And they're probably our easiest program to work with because we're going to start with CNA as our pre-apprenticeship program in the high schools, and then turn that into a registered apprenticeship when they come to us. So we've done quite a bit of work with apprenticeship. When I met with the SGA group earlier, one thing I shared with them is where I think we necessarily haven't done a good job in education is that we educate people all day long. And we do a good job at that. But when they walk across the stage and we shake their hand, we say, good luck and may the force be with you, right? So we haven't done a good job in connecting them with employers or jobs prior to graduation. So I see that as a real opportunity for your colleges in really developing those relationships with business and industry. Apprenticeship is one way to do that. Work-based learning. If you're not familiar with that, work-based learning is a little shorter opportunity for students to go work with companies. I say it's almost like the dating period, whereas with apprenticeship, you're putting the ring on the finger. But internships, work-based learning, apprenticeship, there's opportunities to incorporate that in all your programming here. And I think it's really important to do that for these students and help them become aware of your employers too, because what we found is a lot of our students, they don't know what companies are in our areas. They're not aware of the job opportunities. So we can help make them aware and help be a connector for them. Yes, sir, you're welcome. I thought I saw a finger going up, but then she took it back down. Yes, ma'am.
What is your opinion on the importance of extracurricular things like clubs and societies at the community college?
I think they're very important. I think they're very, oh, I'm sorry. Darn it, I did good the first time. So the question is, what is my opinion on extracurricular activities like clubs here at the college? I think they're really important. Our students don't necessarily have the opportunity to create a sense of belonging at a college, especially when they're working adults. You know, we have a lot of commuter students who are just kind of in and out for classes. So I think clubs and extracurricular activities are a really good way for them to learn about your college, to meet other people across your college, and just help them gain knowledge about what's here. At the college I'm at currently, we have, good grief, we have our SGA clubs, and we probably have about 20 student clubs just in SGA itself. We also do celebrations kind of like you guys do with your spring celebration, your fall flings. We have a lot of sports teams on our campus. We have a bass fishing team, y'all. Which when I first heard that, I was like, who in the world thought about having a bass fishing is not a sport. That's a relaxation event in my book. But no, it's a real sport. And they compete and they go all over the country doing so. And our team's really good. We're the only community college team, and they compete against colleges and universities, and they've been in the top 30 in the country. So I think that's pretty darn good. But you know, those student athletes, that's an opportunity for them to engage in your campus in a different way and represent your campus. We also use those sporting events as like club fundraising opportunities and club competitions, because, you know, a lot of times once students come and take classes, they leave campus and they may not come back. So to support our athletes, you know, we try to do competitions and get these students to come to these events, because once they come, they're a lot of fun. And we typically have pretty good participation with it. So I think any chance that you can use to encourage those students, to give them those opportunities is important. Yes, ma'am.
Vanessa Watkins, the question that was answered earlier I think is very important to be addressed here as well. So how do you plan to be present and visible on campus and campus clubs and events?
So the question is, how do I plan to be, see, I did it that time. How do I plan to be present around campus and with clubs and be visible with students? You got to be present. I mean, I understand the role of the president a lot of times will take you off campus quite a bit. But when that person is on campus, I think it's important that they're able to walk around, go visit programs, talk with students, and be seen. I think that's really important because, you know, a lot of times people may have the perception of the president of your college not being engaged because they're not seen. And while that's not the case, I think it helps to dispel that myth when you are around. You know, the other thing that I think is important is being available for conversations. Again, the president's a busy job. That person may or may not be around as much as you'd like them to be, but I've always had the mindset of, if something's important enough that you want to talk with me, we'll make an appointment and have a conversation. I've always been willing to do that. Can't always promise you a positive resolution or the one resolution that you want, but I will always hear you, I will always acknowledge you, and I will always recognize your opinions. So I think that's important, and you know, and I think that's what we should be doing with each other anyway. Oh, let me grab it. Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me what experience you have with the accreditation process?
Oh my goodness. So the question is, what experience do I have with accreditation? So my background is healthcare. And if you're familiar with healthcare programs, they accreditate the hound out of every healthcare program they can. So when I was dean over health and public safety, I worked with, good gracious, we had the National League of Nursing as our first accreditor. We switched over to ASIN. They were our second accreditor. When I taught in the respiratory therapy program, we went through program accreditation through COARC. I've also worked with surgical tech, radiography, dental hygiene, all those allied health programs. Also worked with the North Carolina Department of Training and Standards for BLET. We worked with, and the name just went out of my head, for fire here in North Carolina. But we've worked with those gentlemen as well. Currently, we at our college it's about a year and a half ago now, did our 10-year visit with SACS and had a wonderful experience with that. It was wonderful because we did wonderful. All the work leading up to it was not so wonderful, but it paid off at the final visit. So I have participated in site visitor training for SACS, but have not been called to do any site visits as of yet. And I would love to have that first visit to be able to go see some other institutions. But I've been involved with accreditation on several different levels as far as the institution goes. You're welcome. I even have to work with the fire marshal there on campus for different things. So accreditation and standards it's all over the place with what we do. Where's Jessica with the business office? Good grief. PCI compliance. Holy moly, all those great things. Did you have a question?
I did.
Yes, ma'am.
In your 22 years of community college experience, how involved have you been with IDD programs?
So the question is, in my 22 years of experience, how long have I been involved with IDD programs? And the honest answer is not that much until about the last 4 years. When I was in healthcare, we didn't deal with IDD folks at all. Where I kind of got involved with that was when we started, when I was working with student services, and we were looking at, we had some IDD students that were looking for programs of study. They were pretty high functioning students. So really thinking about what programs would fit those individuals' needs, and really how we could help them get jobs afterwards too. So one of the things that we did, and we worked with a young man who just had incredibly supportive, wonderful parents. He wanted to open his own business, and he pretty much was told that he'd never have his own business. He loves popcorn, and he wanted to make popcorn his business. And he worked with his parents at home. He loved to cook. He would come up with all these flavored popcorns. So he came up, and don't ask me how he got this name, but the name of his company is Pooter's Popcorn. And he actually worked with folks at our small business center, and we worked with some of our local companies to work. They were going to give him some space on their shelves for his product. And he has a really good business now. So he was our first person that we worked with. We're doing much more work now with IDD students and really trying to look at programs that align really well for them. Haven't been able to broach that healthcare area quite so much, but especially in the service areas, we are working with Longhorn Steakhouse. They have been really gracious about working with those students and trying to take the customer service skills that we're working with them on and incorporating them into jobs in their restaurants. So those are just a couple of examples that we're doing.
Was that more standalone, or was that a part of, like here at James Sprunt we have gears,
Mm-hmm.
so, and it's a program. Have you been involved with any type of programming?
So I have not personally. And with all the new work that they're doing around IDD work or IDD students and really trying to work on job placement, Tammy Buff is our coordinator. So we've been working more with Tammy to try to work on coming up with more standardized programming for those guys. But personally, I have not. We're just really, and probably like a lot of other colleges, just really now starting to scratch the surface with IDD students. I think they're one of those populations that we just haven't given a whole lot of, they are underserved. They haven't gotten the time, love, and tenderness that they probably should have gotten prior. So I'm glad to see they are getting more of that now. Yes, ma'am.
Can you share with us any experience that you have with the campus reorganization initiative?
Ooh, how much time do we have left? Yes, ma'am, I can. Let me give you a little context. Thank you. So the question is, how much or what experience do I have with campus reorganization? And at our college, during COVID, and I shared some of this morning with a group, when we went through COVID, we kept everybody on the payroll, which was the right thing to do. But when we came back from COVID, our enrollment was abysmal. And financially, our college was not in the greatest place. As a result of that, we really had to look at how we were doing our business, because we could not continue to operate in the same way and expect to do well. So we really had that really caused us to take a look internally at all our programming, all our processes, and we had to make some really tough decisions in regards to personnel, but also programming. We had to do program evaluation, and we had to make some very difficult choices about letting some legacy programs go. There were a few of those programs that needed to go. They didn't have the enrollment, but we were able to hold on to them just because we were doing okay financially at that point. So we also looked at what made sense as far as utilization of space. We shuttered a campus about 2 years ago and brought all that programming to our main campus. Have you guys read the book, Who Moved My Cheese? Mm-hmm. So anytime you move people and programs and you encroach on other people's space, there's always some issues with that. So the long story short and good news is, yes, people were upset, but we made choices that were really good for the college. And when we communicated what we were trying to do, we really tried to keep that front and center. We tried to talk about how these changes would be beneficial for students, number one, but then number two, how it was going to be beneficial for the college, where the cost savings may be, where the resource savings may be. And that helped take some of the personal sting out of it, because face it, guys, we're all human, right? We're a little territorial. We like our stuff. We like our spaces and our equipment. And I can replace that with the word my, right? So really helping people think about or reframing this as this is for the college. It's nothing personal. It's for the good of the college and the good of our students. So we have reorged several times since then. And what we found is after we did that initial reorg, we keep reevaluating what we're doing. Is this working well? If it's not, what would make it work better? And we make changes based off of that. So we've probably restructured at least a couple of times since 2022. And we still continue to tweak and make changes. But I think that's healthy. I really think that's healthy for an organization to do that, because if you don't evaluate what you're doing and change it up, it's really easy to get complacent and just kind of do things because that's the way we've always done it, right? So one of the students that I was speaking with earlier asked me, if you came in as president, what are you going to do differently? I don't know that I'm going to do differently, but I think as a president, I would come in and I would question you and ask you why you do it this way. One, because I want to understand, right? Not every college does it the same way. We've got 58 colleges, they're all very different. But the other piece is I want to challenge you to think a little differently. I want you to think about why you do things the way you do it. When I shared I worked with student services before. Now I was dean over healthcare and public safety. I knew enough about student services to be darn good and dangerous, right? So I did ask a lot of questions. I never did it in a threatening way whatsoever. I wanted to know why we did certain things the way we did. And what we found is we were relying a lot on institutional legacy knowledge and not so much on different ways to do things. And we changed a lot of processes because of that. We also found that some of the ways we were doing things were not very student-centered at all. I mean, the way we were structured at the time, our student services or our continuing education was on a different campus. That's the one that we shuttered that I was referencing a minute ago. Con Ed registration and payment happened on that campus. Curriculum registration and payment happened on our main campus. So if you were a poor Con Ed student and went to our main campus and said, hey y'all, I want to take a phlebotomy class, which is Con Ed, our business office would say, I'm sorry, you're at the wrong campus. You need to get in your car and drive down the road, go through 2 stoplights, hang a right. That's where our East Campus is. That's not good customer service, guys. We should be able to register and have a student pay wherever they are on our campus. So we made a lot of changes. We had our registrars up in arms over closing that Con Ed campus. Because, are y'all registrars? Do you work in that area? But it's one of those things where we almost had a Con Ed registrar and a curriculum registrar. And we didn't have a backup for either one of them. Well, good gracious, if our Con Ed registrar got hit by the beer truck, we were out of luck. So really being intentional and thoughtful about having contingency plans and not relying on institutional knowledge and legacy knowledge. You can't rely on people, guys. We've got to be almost like the military in a way. We've got to know each other's jobs enough to where if somebody's out of action for some reason, someone else can step up and continue to serve our campus and our students. So when you asked about what experience I have, it continues. It hasn't stopped. I hope that answered your question. Yes, ma'am.
With the rise of AI, do you feel as if employees are at risk of their jobs?
No, I do not. And let me tell you why. So, thank you. So the question had to deal with AI and do I feel employees are at risk of losing their jobs because of it? I told the group earlier, AI is another tool in our tool belt. And the example I gave was, I read an article a couple of weeks ago and it just made me chuckle really hard when I read it. It was talking about, God bless you, in the late 1970s when calculators were introduced. Math teachers went crazy. They were picketing outside their colleges saying that they did not want students to use calculators because it would make them stupid. They would cheat, using calculators, and they wouldn't learn the content. When email came out, and I know this, in 1983, people thought email was the devil. People will never use email. It's not going to make us efficient. How many of you could function in your jobs right now without email? I know I couldn't. So I look at AI much the same way. AI is just another tool that we as instructors or staff can put in our tool belt. We need to learn how to use it. We need to be proficient with it. We don't have to be experts, but we have to be proficient. We have to be examples for our students. I mean, we've got to teach them how to ethically use AI because we know it can get you in a lot of trouble too, much like anything else, right? So at our college, and especially when I was teaching, I always shared that we should model the behaviors that we expect of our students, right? Do we expect them to use AI? Because I can tell you right now, business and industry does. And are we gonna sit here and graduate students who don't know how to use AI because my instructor said it was stupid? No, we can't do that. We have got to embrace this, whether you like it or not. You've got to know how to use it and help your students and your staff. This past year, we spent the whole year of our professional development for faculty and staff around AI. And it's been really fun. I was really surprised because I'm a little bit of a skeptic when it comes to some of these things, right? But I have learned more about AI and how to use it than I could have ever imagined. I have put together some of the most killer PowerPoints using AI. So those of you who use PowerPoints and use it for teaching, if you're not using it, folks, I'm telling you, you need to start thinking about it. I can see your institution using AI very well, especially with the programming you've got here. I think if you don't, you're doing a disservice to your students. So I hope that answers your question. All right, batter up. Who's next? Yes, ma'am.
So, as a leader, what do you think your dominant leadership style is, and what is your strength in leading?
So the question is, I'm going to get this right by the time we finish. So the question is, in regards to my leadership style, what is my leadership style, and what is my dominant trait, or what is my strong suit in leadership? So I think my leadership style is collaborative. I love working in teams, and I kind of laugh and tell people, I'm not the sharpest back in the box all the time, right? There are people who have more skills and knowledge than I do in certain areas. So if I don't rely or lean on that person for their expertise, then I'm doing a disservice for our team. So, and you may not make the best decision. I, as an individual, can make a good decision, but I think if I have the input of my teammates, I'll make a better decision for the institution and for students. So collaborative is my leadership style. I think my strong suit in leadership is that somebody told me my superpower is I could get along with the devil. And that's kind of served me well. I don't have to like individuals to work well with them. I just have to be respectful and see and hear them and acknowledge them, and we're just fine. We are just fine. So I think my superpower, or where I'm really strong, is my ability to hear individuals and work with them.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Somebody else had a question up here. Yes, ma'am.
Based on what you know, what resources and programs does James Sprunt Community College currently offer to support our Latino Hispanic students? And what your approach would be to enhance or expanding these efforts if you're selected as a president?
So that's a long question. Let me see if I can get this right for the online audience. So based on what I know about James Sprunt, what are the programs that and resources available for Hispanic students? And what would I do as president to enhance that or increase that? So on my tour this morning that Phaedra gave me, and whoever's Phaedra's supervisor, she is a wonderful tour guide, so I just want to shout her out. We visited your area. You are one of the few colleges that I think really has an area centered around serving Latinx students. And I think that's very unique and a wonderful thing to have here. I think as president, and especially based on demographics here in your community, there needs to be support for the Latin community. That's a big part of your community. So I think really looking at interests in your areas. An example I think I can give you in work I'm currently doing right now is we have a group called Centro Latino in Hickory, and they do a lot of outreach work to the Hispanic community in our area. But they do it very locally. It's a very small, very intimate community. We had more Hispanic students coming to our campus, but honestly, we're a pretty Caucasian campus. We didn't have a lot of Hispanic instructors. We didn't have a lot of bilingual instructors. So we were really struggling to serve our Latin students. We started partnering with Centro Latino, and we were finding that those students in particular in our area were more interested in the workforce development side than they were two-year curriculum programs. So we went to Centro Latino. There were a group of us that went, and we just sat down during one of their meeting nights and had a conversation of, what are the programs you want? So from that conversation, we had a lot of students who wanted to come to our furniture academy and learn how to build furniture. We had a lot of students who wanted electrical classes on the continuing education side. We didn't offer those. We offered them curriculum only. We also had students, there was one more, what was that? Oh, our cosmetology students. We had a lot of students that wanted to do, they didn't want to go through the whole program. They either wanted to do aesthetics or they wanted to do nails. So out of that feedback we got, and our contacts from Centro Latino helped us reach out and find instructors who were bilingual. So we now offer an aesthetics program in Spanish. We also have a nail tech class in Spanish. And we have hired some bilingual instructors in our furniture academy as well. We're still looking for electrical bilingual instructors. But in the meantime, what we've done is we've hired someone that we're very familiar with to help translate for those individuals in the classes. So really trying to think about what your classes look like and how we offer those for those individuals. That's the type of support that we've put into our program. It's based on the input. So I think my answer to your question would be, I'd have to ask and find out what it is that's needed to be able to wrap that support around those students. You're welcome. Yes, ma'am.
In regards to adult learners,
Uh-huh.
what is your take in your experience with supporting adult learners?
So the question is, in my experience with adult learners, what, say,
What's your take on adult learners?
what's my take on adult learners and the support that they need?
Have you dealt with that? Well, the support of it.
Yeah.
That we have this support.
We do, yeah. So we were in cohort 3 of NC Reconnect. You guys are cohort 4, right? We thought we were doing a fantabulous job supporting adult learners, right? And the work that we did with NC Reconnect really helped us see that we had some good things in place, but they were kind of designed around when we wanted to offer them and how we wanted to offer them, and not necessarily when our adult learners needed them. Somebody just went, mm-hmm. So we had to rethink. One of the things that we had to rethink was our orientation process. Our adult learners weren't going to come during our regular orientation hours, so we started doing a Saturday orientation for adults. That was hit and miss, because what we found out through that attempt is they're running children to soccer and basketball and baseball, and they're cleaning the house and catching up, you know, from when they're working and everything else. So we've created an abbreviated orientation for some of these adult learners. It is online. We've also offered a hybrid version where we have someone online to actually talk to them. They don't really want to watch a video, stuff you put on there. They want to talk to somebody. So doing something hybrid has worked much better. We've extended our student service hours. We have 2 nights a week where we extend the hours a couple of hours, so we're there till 7 o'clock for adults who want to come in then. We found that a lot of these adults needed support around child care. So we were telling them, bring your kids to the orientations if you want to do that. With our Furniture Academy, for those students who were doing some work, and this is something I think I shared with Phaedra, we had some students who really wanted to come to the program, but they didn't have daycare. A lot of daycares close at 6, and our program starts around 5:36. So we took some of the child care assistance grant monies. Those students get those monies, and we let those parents bring their kids. We have a classroom dedicated where those kids can go, and then they pay the person with those child care grant funds to watch their kids. And you can do that as long as they're not there more than 4 hours. Because if they're there more than 4 hours, then you start getting into child care regulation issues. But if it's like a drop-in daycare, they can be there up to 4 hours. So we started doing that in our Furniture Academy for those students, and it's worked pretty well. We have some of our curriculum students who will bring their kids over there too. And that really, it's kind of been dependent upon the students. We don't offer it all the time because they don't always need it, but it's available as an option if they have it. I think too, parents are looking for a lot of short-term training and they need help financially. So really trying to connect them to the funding that's there, like short-term workforce development grant funds, any kind of scholarships around. Through K64, we did a lot of fundraising, and we have what we call a Skills Builder Scholarship. And for students who are coming to take short-term training, but they don't necessarily qualify for the short-term workforce development grant criteria, we try to connect them to those funds. Funding's been one of the biggest issues, and just really trying to get creative around how we help students find money to take these courses has been the biggest challenge. Yes, ma'am.
I'm the Director of College and Career Readiness, and
Mm-hmm.
I was wondering if you have any experience working with that department.
More so over the last couple of years. And really, and this is where our college didn't necessarily do a good job with that one either. They did great with the college career readiness part. Our students do really well, but nobody ever said, what's next? I'm sorry, the question was, with college and career readiness, what experience do I have with those students? So what we found was, again, like our regular students, we didn't have a handoff of any kind. So we've really been working with those students. So while they're there taking classes, those instructors are working, it's almost like a script that they use. You know, I know a lot of these students have jobs already. They may be working. But they'll ask them, is this what you want to do? You know, basically, is this what you want to be when you grow up, or is there something else you're interested in? And what we're trying to do is plant seeds for, if you want to go into automotive, if you want to go into electrical, if you want to be a teacher, how can we help connect you? How can we hand you off so that you continue while you're here? Because chances are, once they finish CCR, they may not come back for a while. So trying to really capture them and keep them while we have them has been a focus in CCR. Yes, ma'am.
So, have you been involved in any initiatives, or what initiatives have you been considered bringing to James Sprunt to help secure financial support for students who do not qualify or only partially qualify for federal financial aid or state-funded scholarships?
So the question is, and it deals with financial aid and funding for students who may not qualify for traditional Pell or whatever, financial aid, whatever that may be. Our foundation director has been phenomenal in really working with the community to raise money for scholarships. We have several scholarships that, you know, based on the donor, they may want them for particular programs. However, we do have funding that is not tied to a specific program. So really trying to connect students with those monies has been important. Our foundation and our financial aid department work like this. And at some colleges, that's not necessarily the case. So whenever we have a student or we see a student who may not qualify for financial aid for whatever reason, then our financial aid people typically will do a handoff to our foundation person who helps with scholarships. And we're usually able to connect students to some sort of support that way. But one of our foundation director's goals for this past year has been to increase the amount of general scholarship funds that we have so they can reach more students.
It's that time of the evening, excuse me.
Yes, ma'am.
One more question, and that will end it. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
The first day will probably be boots on the ground. What do you see the vision of James Sprunt 5 or 10 years from now?
That's always a loaded question, isn't it? So Dr. Caraway, so the question was, first day is going to be boots on the ground, but where do I really see the vision in about 5 to 10 years? Thank you guys for cueing me in on that. I just get so excited about these questions, I forget. So Dr. Caraway and you guys have done a lot of work these past years over really building those relationships with business and industry. I think that's going to continue to be paramount in the work that you do. When I was looking at the data for your college, enrollment for continuing education and curriculum has continuously gone up. I think that's a great thing. My goal would continue to see that increase. Now, where I think we run into issues down the road is there's an enrollment cliff coming. We all know that. So we've got to think about where do we find our students. A guy I worked with said if you fish from the same pond, you always catch the same fish, right? So I would challenge you to really look at what other ponds we've got to fish from here. I think there's tremendous work that can still be done on the workforce side of the house, and there probably always will be. I think overall, and I say this from a system perspective, we're still not capturing high school students. So we've still got a lot of work to do in that arena as well. We need to be a part of the conversation with elementary students in career exploration. We need to be seeing these kids in 6th grade. We need to be a part of the career development coordinators' plans when they're in middle school. Parents need to know about James Sprunt Community College. If your kids are like mine, anytime something went in a book bag, I never saw it until the end of the year when it got cleaned out, right? They have better communication systems now. But guys, we've got to talk to parents. We've really got to harness parents and let them see the value here of what we do and what's here. Because parents don't know what happens here at James Sprunt either. So we've got to educate people. That's where I see we could have big impact moving forward. And that's going to take all of us. That's not just the president's job. That's everybody's job here on this campus. We're all ambassadors for this college, and we all recruit for this college. So thinking about how we get in front of people and what that looks like will be, I think, a big piece of what we could do here. All right. Thank you, guys. I'm sorry?
Just take it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank y'all, and